big show for you. Big show. We're early. I said I was going to start popping these lives off earlier, and we did it, guys, together. I said it to you to hold myself accountable, and guess what happened? It worked. We are going live earlier because I like to do exactly what I say I'm going to do. And by saying it out loud to all of you guys in the chat, now I have to hold myself accountable, and here we are. Justin Gaethje, man, let the man cook. He had a genius take about Sean Strickland, Dana White, Donald Trump, and the UFC White House card. We're going to get into all that. We're going to get into Strickland's geopolitical views. We're going to get into it, guys. I know. We're going to get into cognitive biases. We're going to get off the deep end a little bit. We're going to get into Adrian Broner and Larry Wheels and their future in fighting, whether that be Adrian Broner trying out MMA and his little kick stream with Armand and Larry Wheels pulling up to Extreme Couture and what we can learn from that and their futures. Plus, your favorite podcaster and mine, Brendan Schaub, predicts Hogan has a big shot at winning the UFC World Heavyweight title in the very near future. Now, I may have predicted that, I don't know, over a month ago. But anyways, it's good to see big names in the industry are moving forward towards my way of thinking. My name is King David MMA. I'll be your host for the evening. It's so good to have you here with me. I appreciate you guys, man. Shout out to everybody that subscribes, everybody that drops comments. I read every single freaking comment, just so you guys know. And I love when you guys chat. So make sure you have notifications on. That way you can hop on the chat with me whenever I go live because it's at random ass times. We're going to get right into it. Let me drop this in the chat real quick. Oh, what? Oh, shit. Now we're talking. Hitting the message. John Hogan says, hey, what's up? Hey, John, man, just let me know what you need to talk about, brother. Hamza says Hogan can become heavyweight champion. What? Because I said that months ago, and I got blasted in the comments by people talking about Tom Aspinall. You know what I mean? People saying, what about Tom? Tom can fuck him up, blah, blah, blah. Dog, Tom ain't fighting, bro. Unfortunately, that's reality. Hamza says UFC press conference is canceled because of the thunderstorm. Oh, what, bro? I brought the thunder and the lightning to the live tonight, guys. Let's freaking go. Let me take a sip of this Zevia. Man, I'm so happy that I got these pineapple Zevias. This is only my third one of the day. They have 120 milligrams of caffeine each. That's 360 plus. I've had two other sodas, so that is 428. With 428 milligrams. Great way to start the middle of the day, right? It's 5 p.m. here. I'm about to go train jujitsu at Extreme Couture. Stick some people's heads up their ass, you know what I mean? And we have a big rubber guard update coming. We have a special guest who's good at rubber guard. I'm gonna ask him some questions. His name is Jordan Worth, and he is a very flexible and creative gentleman. So I'm excited to grapple with him because I'm on a wave. It's called acquiring skills. So sometimes when you go with somebody who's world class at a certain thing, it's more beneficial for you to go compete against or practice with them or whatever you want to call it in their specialized skill set. So for instance, it's more beneficial for me to hop in this dude's rubber guard, learn what he's doing, learn the defenses, learn, rather than me go, hey, bro, come spar me in MMA, right? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so how would I necessarily improve by competing in my skill set rather than trying to learn someone else's skill set? So that's what I'm about to go do right now. But let's get right into it, guys. Also, make sure you cop a real one shirt, but only if you're a real one. And send your coach to Studio Millions. Studio Millions is absolutely the best marketing toolkit on the planet for gym owners. Like, dude, I'm talking, we did 2 million in 18 months, right? Without even freaking trying, guys. Imagine if you made your coach $2 million. They'd probably fuck with you super hard. So send them to Studio Millions and they will absolutely thank you for it. Not only that, they will owe you their freaking life. So we got Aubrey Gordon in the chat, Cyril Gahn or Alex Pereira. Dude, okay, so I was balls, deep on Pereira. No, no BBL, guys. No Diddy. But I was really ultra convinced Pereira's gonna win. But then I saw a Cyril Gahn interview with Nina Drama, and I'm like, I like that guy. I like the freaking guy now. So before I thought he was just kind of a non-personality dude, just there as another fighter in the list of fighters. But when I saw him interact with Nina, I was like, okay, this guy's kind of charismatic. So shout out to Cyril Gahn. That's crazy because Cyril Gahn did take punches from Francis Ngannou. And we're going to get into that. Shab actually predicts some stuff in that was kind of interesting. So, yeah, man, there's a lot to discuss. We're going to unpack that in 1 second. Hamza, will the Soccer World Cup US game do more views here in the States or the United States UFC? Sean is flying to DC to protest outside the event. I hope he does not go protest outside the event. I really hope so. Not to say that I want the man to exercise his free speech, and I believe in protesting as an American right, but I'm not sure how well that'll work out for him if he goes and does that because things can escalate, and he seems to have the type of escalatory personality which can attract others who like to escalate situations, and we would not like that. So let's get right into it. Justin Gaethje, let the man cook. He had a genius take, which brings us into the subject of cognitive biases. We're going to tie it all together, and we're going to get a little philosophical here. We're going to talk about how to win fights based on this line of thinking and how lines of thinking and deficiencies in lines of thinking will cause blind spots or scotomas, if you want to sound really, really, really hyper book smart, nerdy, some would say, and how to exploit your opponent's blind spots in MMA fights. So Justin Gaethje he actually had a genius take about the Strickland getting banned from the White House card. And then he had another take, which was actually really good as well. So we're going to get into that. So Justin Gaethje, the take that I'm referring to is that he is saying Strickland insulted everybody. Talked about I'm not talking about this, that said Cash Bertoni, right? Like he said a bunch of wild stuff. And then Strickland also dropped geopolitical takes. So this is my point when I reference clavicular in previous lives, because clavicular says all politics is jester. Now, how does this tie into Justin Gaethje, guys? This is what I'm saying. You gotta stick with me. Justin Gaethje says, Strickland, how can you claim to be a geopolitical expert who people should listen to when Gaethje believes Strickland was not wise enough to realize that insulting everybody who's in charge of the tickets and the guest list would get him banned from getting a ticket or being on the guest list. Like if Justin Gaethje's proposing, if one doesn't have the wisdom or the foresight to see that coming, then why would we listen to your geopolitical take? Because if you're so wrong about that, then why would we believe you're right about this other thing? And then he told this was on DC's interview with Daniel Cormier. It was him and Justin Gaethje, and he goes, "Dude, I don't know anything about it, so I don't even get involved in it," which is like the highest level of thinking that I've heard out of any fighter in recent memory. Which is, you don't know what you don't know. So why would you comment on something you don't know anything about? Which gets us back to clavicular, who says it's all jester, it's all cope, right? I'm not a geopolitical expert. I'm guessing maybe one of you guys in the chat might believe you have geopolitical insight. I believe I do not understand what's going on internationally, nearly at all. So why would I have a hot take on it? Right? So this is something, it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias which states that if there's an area of information and you have a piece of information, you may believe you have the right take on the whole of the information based on the limited information you have. But because you have enough information to think you know something, you may be biased into not realizing that you don't know what you don't know, which is the whole scope of things. And then I'm in my head, you know, hypothesizing these ideas. And then I see someone post a reel on Instagram, and the reel essentially says, "This is why it's important for everyone to train martial arts at least once." Where we get into Adrian Broner and Larry Wheels, because recently Adrian Broner has been implying that he could beat up Armin Sarukian, which is, listen, at their two current skill sets in MMA, Adrian Broner has literally the least amount of chance as possible. Larry Wheels also was saying he could beat up Adrian Broner. Then Cutman Tate brought him down to Extreme Couture, my gym where I train, and he trained with my teammates Justin James and Kobe the Don. Kobe the Don balled him up first. Kobe the Don literally fights at 135 pounds, and some people would say he can make 125. Kobe stuck Larry Wheels' head up his ass, and Larry Wheels was humble about it and kind and everything like that. Justin James picked his 300-pound ass up, spun him around, set him down gently, and then choked him out with a head and arm choke, right? And so the reason why I'm bringing this up in relation to the Dunning-Kruger effect is because that the Dunning-Kruger effect is the cognitive bias of not knowing what you don't know. So in Larry Wheels or Adrian Broner's case, Adrian Broner goes, "Well, I have proper punching technique in boxing. So how would somebody who doesn't have as good as technique as me, they don't have my eyes and my legs for boxing, be able to beat me? I'm a 4-time world champion." Larry Wheels is going, "Dude, I'm 300 pounds with abs and one of the strongest bodybuilders on the planet. How would a dude that could fight at 135 pounds possibly stick my head up my ass?" It's outside of their realm of comprehension. But this is everywhere. It's in everywhere at all times. And one of the main things that I've learned being a professional MMA champion and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and I'm literally dating a Chinese genius. And when I'm saying, like, oh, she's not just a genius because she comes from China, like, amongst the competitive nature of China, she rose to the top, right? Was like the top in her whole, field of study, in her whole, like, I guess they would be called like counties or states. And then she rose up through the ranks, ended up in America and got a fucking 4.0 at Berkeley in a language that's not her first language. And now she teaches English to Americans. You get what I'm saying? Like, genius. So through all this, I've become very aware that there's a lot of things I don't know. And I use this to win professional MMA fights because the same cognitive bias that exists for me, exists for you, exists for everybody, exists for Adrian Broner, Larry Wheels. It's happening at all times. There's blind spots. So one thought experiment I do is right now, the best no-gi grappler in the world, his name's Gordon Ryan. Everybody agrees he's the best, the GOAT. In no-gi, right? So I'm a black belt. If I walk up to a white belt and I watch him grapple a blue belt, let's say, the blue belt beats him, cuts through his guard, whatever, taps him. Now the blue belt rolls with a purple belt, and the purple belt cuts through his guard like butter and taps him. The white belt looks at what the purple belt did, can conceptualize it like, I see that he tapped him out, right? This is called conscious incompetence because he's aware that the purple belt can do it. So I'm conscious that it can be done, but I'm incompetent at doing it, right? These are the stages of competency. We can get into that in a second. But for right now, the same way that the holes in the blue belt's game were available to the purple belt, they were available to the white belt. The white belt just couldn't see them. He had blind spots. She had blind spots. whatever. So there's these blind spots happening all the freaking time. Let's fast forward. Purple belt, then the brown belt beats them, and then I beat the brown belt, right? And then let's say Gordon Ryan comes and just crushes through my guard, and someone else is like, it's literally impossible to pass King David's guard. And then Gordon Ryan comes up and just passes me like a knife through hot butter. Well, the same gaps in my game, the same holes in my jujitsu are there. He just sees them. So this is happening everywhere, all the freaking time, in the way things are taught, in the way things are learned, in the way content is consumed, in the way people prioritize things. Like, before you learn a move, have you ever considered asking, what move should I learn? Or as a coach, what move should I teach? Right. Well, then why? Why what? Well, what are we not seeing? Well, hypothetically speaking, let's say we were aware that there was something called the 80-20 rule. It's the Pareto principle. And this states that 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. One could extrapolate that potentially, if you master 20% of positions in MMA, then you will win 80% of your fights based on those 20% alone. So double down, triple down, quadruple down on those 20%. And then within those 20%, what are the moves in those positions that are 80-20? And then what are, let's say, the grip battles that are 80-20 within those moves, right? So then you have a very refined set of things to work on that are going to get you way disproportionate results. While the other person is working hard, you could be working strategically focused. Anyways, this I could go on about this subject forever. But what Adrian Broner and Larry Wheels didn't see was that there was a skill set outside of their skill set that they were unaware of. Adrian Broner is still unaware of this. He thinks that Armand would shoot on his leg and then he would bow, bow, and hit him in the back of the head and KO him. What Adrian Broner doesn't realize is that he would be inverted upside down, his head speeding rapidly towards the mat, the canvas, or the concrete, depending on where they're at. He would be nearly knocked unconscious by the fall, if not had the wind knocked out of him, potentially broken ribs. And then as soon as he lands and his head bounces off the mat, there's an elbow coming down like Thor's hammer from above to crush his facial features. But he can't conceptualize that because in his realm of knowledge, he's an expert and he's essentially learned so every avenue he goes down in boxing, it's very rare he learns anything new. So in his brain, the Dunning-Kruger effect takes effect, and it tells him, oh, every avenue you're going down, you've almost solidified everything. There's a very small likelihood that you don't know anything. The problem is, in that lane, that's very accurate. But he's not talking about that lane. He's expanded his lane. The same way Larry Wheels, dude, none of us are going to go out bench press Larry Wheels. The dude's a freaking strong freak. I met him at Brand Risk. He's got 21.5-inch arms. He was trying to mog me. He flexed on me. I flexed on him back. You know? I said, bro, listen, man, you might be buff, but I could frame mog you too, bro. Don't get frame mogged on your own stream. You know what I'm saying? By a 45 or 55er. You know what I mean? So I flexed on him, guys. But guess what? Maybe that's me Dunning-Krugering. Maybe I don't know what I don't know. Maybe a dude with 21-inch guns could frame mog me. I don't know. I don't think it's possible, but you know what I mean? Maybe, right? So the same way that he couldn't even conceptualize of what's possible, how could he? It's like explaining color to a man that was born blind. How would you explain color to a blind person who's never seen? Like, no, really, really try it right now. How would you try it? Like how would what would you so until they've experienced it, they can't conceptualize it. And these gaps are fucking everywhere. There's like billion-dollar opportunities that are right in front of us that we're not aware of. There's some skill set or some combination of something that you could do on social media right now that would have you living your best life, making dough, right? All you have to do is like let your awareness become aware of it, right? Like you have a consciousness, and this thing is right here, and all you have to do is see it, right? So anyway, I believe that's why it would be cool to see Adrian Broner and, let's say, Arman really spar in MMA, right? Just expand the dude's awareness, right? And then it's like unlocking, like in the video game, right? If you can see this much of the map, but as you walk this way, the like flashlight lets you see more, and now you can read the shirt, right? But like over here, you can't read what the shirt says. Here, you can kind of read. Oh, there, what like, but now as the map expands, right? There's more and more. Like there's more in the video game for you to explore. It's the same way with life. So a lot of people don't even realize that a lot of what they believe to be true is based on limited information that is actually hindering them from seeing the truth because their level of certainty doesn't allow them to be open to things that are outside of their realm of specific niche knowledge. So I thought it was dope that Justin Gaethje was kind of hinting at that. Maybe he doesn't understand like the terms for it, but I thought it was like a high level thought process, right? So, anyways, I want to see Adrian Broner and Larry Wheels start scrapping MMA with these MMA dudes. I mean, Larry Wheels kind of already did it. He kind of learned his lesson, and now he's actually training. So shout out to him. Good on him. We got user SY in the chat. Fire emoji, fire emoji, fire emoji. Uh, we got Hamza saying if they arrest Sean, UFC will lose. Lose what? So this is another thing, right? Like this is another cognitive bias where lose what? We're assuming that they have the same objective as what hypothetically the chat's objective is. The chat's objective is like, oh, they want fans. Do they? Or do they want multi-billionaire global investors? So oftentimes when someone's action, especially like in politics, which is why I also one of the many things that led me to agree with Clavicular, and we came to the same conclusion that politics is jester, is because we assume the stated goals are the actual goals. So, for instance, let's say with politics, hey guys, I'm gonna make it so that we don't send cows with laser beams to Canada, right? And then you get in office, and then all of a sudden, the laser beam cow lobby comes and goes, "Hey man, listen, we need you to send some cows with laser beams to Canada." And you're like, "But I ran, I like, what do you mean?" And they're like, "No, dude, you don't understand. Every single person that can vote on anything you do moving forward is a pro cow, pro laser beam candidate. That like not only have we funded them, they own cows, they own laser beams. Every single person around you is all in a line. This is happening with or without you. Either you're gonna get crushed politically, right? You get what I'm saying? So like assuming the UFC would lose by Sean getting arrested? Like, I'm not sure what you mean by that, right? You're saying it would be a bad look for the UFC, or you're saying that the fans would dislike the UFC if Sean got arrested, or like, so I don't even know. So that's what I'm saying. The Dunning-Kruger effect, right? I'm almost assuming what you mean by that, but I actually don't know what you mean by that. And I'm not saying it's because of what you said. I'm saying it's because of my biases have me assuming I know what you mean by that when you could mean something entirely different. So, like, just as an example, if they arrest Sean, UFC will lose, right? So, are you saying that it would be a bad look for the media to report that the UFC's top star got arrested? Is that a bad PR look? Are you saying that they will lose, meaning the fan base would get mad at UFC? You guys got Sean arrested. He should have been in the fights. You guys are bought and sold. Is that the definition of lose? Is it mean that they would not have as many subscribers on Paramount Plus because people will unsubscribe if Sean gets arrested? Or are you saying that they would lose billionaire investors if Sean gets arrested? So, like, one can take that sentence and extrapolate it out like dozens of ways. And then, in order for us, this is what I was talking about in last night's live, was that communication is important especially underneath the framework of understanding that we both have the same definitions of words, right? So what you mean by that sentence, there's that, which is accurate because you created the sentence. And then there's my interpretation of the sentence, which can be very different than your meaning of the sentence. And then you and I could hypothetically be going back and forth in disagreement over something that we are completely, we could both be right because we have two definitions of the same thing that are very different definitions. Anyways, Aubrey Gordon, how do you become a full fighter for MMA? You mean like a full-time fighter? What? What do you mean, Aubrey? I'm guessing you mean full-time fighter. So there. I mean, several ways. I mean, it could go from anything from grappling and striking. Oh, see, that's what I'm saying. I thought you meant full time. So I was gonna say, hey man, I've seen people sleep in their car outside the gym. I've seen other dudes get multi-million dollar investors invest in them. So there was an entire thing back in the day called Team Takedown, where these dudes wrestled at Oklahoma and other top schools, and they had an investor that was paying them like 5 or 10 grand a month just to train. And then one of those dudes went on to become Johnny Hendricks, who fought GSP for a UFC world title and became the UFC world champion in another fight. Right. So, like, that's what I'm saying. My interpretation of the question was different than your intention of the question, right? So now I can actually answer your question because we've agreed on terms, grappling and striking. And so, how do you become a full fighter for MMA? Right? In my opinion, I would say, as far as grappling is concerned, you would have to understand which positions happen the most frequently and what are the most likely scenarios in those positions, and then build out game plans based on those scenarios and positions that are likely to happen, and then have some form of less in-depth knowledge because you have a limited time frame, right? Like every day you have 24 hours, so you can only dedicate X amount of time to learning things. So have deep knowledge in the most frequent happening positions, and then have base level knowledge in the surrounding positions and the less frequent exchanges, so that you can have good defense over among everything, and then you have high level offense in very specific exchanges or in exchange in specific positions. As far as striking, I would say almost all striking is taught backwards. It's taught with combinations and strikes, and it sounds counterintuitive, but it's part of the problem with when we're talking about naming things and the definitions of words. We assume because it's named striking, that's what's actually implied or what should be taught or understood. Whereas I would say, let's call it, for the sake of this discussion, standing combat. And if we are defining things in terms of standing combat, then it's not just strikes, correct? So we could add in, let's say, strikes and takedowns. We could add in strikes and takedown defense. We could add in distance management. We could add in deterrence. We could add in. So there's like all these different things, right? Because now, as a simplified framework, let's call it hit and don't get hit. Let's say that's our new definition, right? So let's say hypothetically, instead of calling it striking, we call it damage them without taking damage. Just by changing the name of it, we would have a different understanding of it. And by having a different understanding of it, we would approach it differently. And by approaching it differently, we would learn a much more rich system that would get us much better results, one would imagine. So yeah, let's just before we get deep in the weeds, let's change the working title of what we mean by striking to damage without getting damaged, right? And then that would lead us down some interesting thought experiments. You know what I mean? Like if you're like, wait, how do I not take damage? Okay, you would probably set up a hierarchy of ways to not take damage. Like the number one would be distance. If someone is across the cage from you, they can't hit you. They have to close the distance. Okay. What would something so then either they close the distance or they don't, right? But like What's stopping them from closing the distance? Well, fucking air, right? Well, how? Well, what else? Their own mind. Well, why would their own mind stop them from closing the distance? Maybe you give them a deterrent. Well, what would a deterrent be? A deterrent could be a strike in the air. A deterrent could be, showing them a knee if they want to close the distance and try and take you down. And then after deterrence, then hypothetically, what could happen? Well, let's say damage, or no, let's say defense, right? So let's go distance, deterrence, defense, right? So imagine you had a force field on you and you could never get hurt, right? Like how many of your fights would you win if you had a force field and they didn't? Like as a thought experiment, right? This is imaginary. But what if you had like amazing defense and you had amazing distance management and you had amazing deterrence? And now they're scared to close the distance on you. When they do close the distance and get into striking range, you defend everything, right? And then you're able to damage them, right? So it's like the 4 Ds of standing combat: distance, deterrence, defense, and damage. You get what I'm saying? Like if we flesh it out that way and we don't just call it striking, because striking implies, oh, I'm going to learn a combo and then another combo and another combo, and then I'll be able to strike. And then you go spar and you're like, dog, the guy's not standing in front of me. Well, how do I land the combo? And so oftentimes I believe like if so I've coached, I've cornered in the UFC, and I've specifically coached someone from amateur to PFL. And they went undefeated in the PFL while I was their primary coach. They went undefeated as an amateur as well. And in addition to that, maybe I've coached like 7 people from like white belt to like amateur champion, or whatever. Who's keeping track? But oftentimes, if someone is like really going to listen, I'm like, we're not even going to talk about strengths. We're going to talk about footwork and positioning. But in order to run a class with 30 students who came to striking to learn strikes, it's very challenging to explain to them, hey, we're going to walk back and forth on the mat today, or we're going to circle today, or you get what I'm saying? So there's like, sometimes we're put into these positions where there's objectives that are outside of our control. And if it were in an isolated environment where we can control everything, we might learn things in a different procedural manner. So Aubrey says, so takedown defense and striking accuracy. Well, I mean, you would want to defend strikes as well, So let's go distance, deterrence, defense, and then damage. Part of damage would be striking accuracy, right? And then defense would be, let's put it in multiple categories. For right now, we'll just talk about 2: defending strikes and defending takedowns, which there could be other ways of framing it with more possibilities, but those would be 2, let's say, skill sets we would work on, or 2 grouping of skill sets. There would be like an umbrella over actual skills. And then we would get into that, we would break it down so that there's almost an answer to everything. And then 99% of the time when you fight people, they operate within that framework. And then you have the answers to the test before they do. And then you make it look easy, and then you have the announcers going, "Oh, I don't know why so and so doesn't attempt such and such on King David," and it's like, well, bro, he's literally trying to survive, but to the outside observer, it looks like the guy's not trying because he's doesn't know what to do or something, and it's like, in a way, he doesn't know what to do, but it's not from lack of effort; it's from lack of understanding. Distance, deterrence, defense, and damage is the key. Hey, off the top of my head, you know what I'm saying? Off the top of my head, right? Those might be some good frameworks to approach it. And then when we're getting into you don't know what you don't know, right? There could be other shit that we could switch. So then distance can have subcategories, right? It could be actual distance, like the range at which we're interacting with each other, right? Like range, or angle, right? So then range and angle are both like distance management tools, right? And then deterrence could be So then this could be psychological deterrence. This could be visual deterrence. This could be audible. Right? Like I didn't even throw a punch. I just and someone covered up. Right? So now instead of attacking me, they're frozen because I did an audible thing, like right, and especially if you like jab it, ah, right, and like I didn't even have to throw the jab on the last one, but they might cover up because the other jabs landed. That's another theory, right? Like let's say I go to feint, which I've literally feinted without setting up the feints, and I've got dropped in a fight before, which is breaking my own rule, which is damage. Then I can feint because I've once you crack somebody, they have to respect it, right? Now your feints will work. Sometimes if you just try and feint off the jump without getting their respect, maybe the feint won't work, right? So anyway, that's it. We're getting off topic, guys. We're getting off. I can talk about this shit all freaking day. So anyway, yeah, where are we at on the? Oh yeah, and then about Cyril Gahn or Alex Pereira. So Brendan Schaub, and you guys can roast me in the comments if you want. Because anytime I say anything positive about Brendan Schaub, it pops off in the comments. I think he's a solid dude, guys. I hot take. Brendan Schaub seems like a solid guy to me. And he predicts that Hogan has a big chance at a UFC world title shot against Alex Pereira because he's already setting the fight up. And then he started mentioning that Cyril Gahn has good footwork, which is what a lot of people say. But he brought up a point, is that Cyril Gahn has been hit. Brendan Schaub brought up a point that Cyril Gahn has been hit by Francis Ngannou and took it. That leads one to believe that he may have a good chin. Now, Alex Pereira is on record as being one of the hardest strikers in human history on those little punch things they do at the UFC. I heard he may have outpowered Francis Ngannou on that machine. I'm not sure if that's true or not. These are just rumors. So if he is even close to Francis's punching power or surpasses it, that means he can hit hard enough to knock pretty much anybody in the world out. The fact that Cyril Gahn was able to take Francis's punches for the most part, which he wasn't taking too many of them super clean, right? Because he was working his distance and his defense and his deterrence, right? Which is part of what we were just discussing. He's going to attempt to use footwork in the fight, and he's able to take a shot, right? So that, and I mean a physical punch or a kick or whatever. Now, is that the correct strategy to play out against Pereira, who is a kickboxing expert? Somebody would say maybe test his takedowns, but I did think it was interesting that Brendan brought up the point of he's able to take a punch because he's able to take Francis a punch, and Francis hits hard. So, yeah, man, I believe Pereira's going to pull it off, and I'm saying this for the plot, guys. I don't have a problem picking fights. I did a UFC prediction card where I picked every fight on the card with actual picks, no middle of the mall, half stepping, fence sit, none of that bullshit. I picked fights, and I'm biased, and I say when I'm biased. And in this fight, it's for the fucking plot, right? Alex Pereira will win for the plot because now he's going to fight Josh Hokett because Josh Hokett keeps calling him out. And Pereira's trying to not interact with it, but the more he doesn't interact with it, the more the media starts asking him, hey man, is Josh Hokett getting under your skin? Is Josh Hokett? So now, instead of asking about his fight that he's actually having ahead of the UFC White House, the media is now asking him about Josh Hokett and Josh Hokett's antics. So it's already got to start it must be getting to him to some degree. And he's a stone cold professional, so he'll be able to deal with it. But the fact that that is what everybody's talking about ahead of his fight with someone else leads us to be able to believe that that may be the direction that the momentum is going. And when the momentum goes in that direction, oftentimes that's where the UFC will go with their matchmaking as well. Anyway, let me read the freaking chat again. All right, yeah. So we're up to date, guys. Also, If you like this kind of different style of insight where we get into cognitive biases, we get into mental models, we get into thought processes and thought experiments, let me know. Tap the like button, make sure you subscribe, and if you see this later, drop a comment because I read all the comments. Appreciate you guys. Thanks to everybody who subscribed. Appreciate everybody in the chat. It's way more fun for me when I'm able to chat with you guys. You guys make it exciting and fun for me. I'm going to go ball some people up at Extreme Couture Advanced No Gi right now. I will see you guys tomorrow. Love you guys. Bye.